Hello there everybody and welcome to the Entertainment Headquarters, your headquarters where we talk all things entertainment, movies, television, trailer reactions, reviews and a hell of a lot more. And right now I want to review a film that ties in perfectly with something that I released last week. So last week I released this onto the channel. My top 10 shark films. So that was a lot of fun to do. You know, there's so many different shark films out there, and I, put a list together of the 10 ones that stand out the most to me personally. It's my personal top 10. If you haven't seen it, get yourself along and check out that video. It's on the channel now. One other thing I want to mention, because I did that, I did put up a poll in the community section of my my page on the Entertainment Headquarters, and the poll is this. It is to decide a future my top 10, and that is the current voting. So if you haven't seen it, get yourself along. If there's any of those that you would like me to do, please vote on them. If there isn't anything on this list that I've put up, why don't you make a suggestion in below in the comment section? Just go along, say, right, actually, why don't you do this my top 10? What, have you ever thought about doing that my top 10? And potentially it will be a one that I will do in the future. I have one more my top 10 in mind that I will be doing with a fellow YouTuber, my good friend DJ Nubis from the Metal Tavern Radio podcast and YouTube channel. We have something coming along soon which I'm looking forward to doing with him. But until then, let's go back to where we started, and that is talking about sharks. So yes, I like nitty gritty, dark, bloody, gory, fucking sharks ripping you apart, thriller, action, horror films. And because of that, Netflix just happened to release a film last week, I think it was on the Friday, of a film that came out last year in 2023. And so I thought to myself, oh, let's check this out. And the film I'm talking about is this. Deep Fear. Dive to Survive. So, without further ado, let's talk about the plot and let's see what all the fuss is about. So, this is the plot synopsis. Storm-stricken drug traffickers force a yachtswoman to recover their sunken cocaine stash from shark-infested waters. Well, that's very straightforward, isn't it? So, here we go. The cast is Madalena Guerra, Ed Westwick, Macarena Gomez and Stanley Coppett. And Macarena Gomez plays Maria, and I know Stanley Coppett plays Josie, who are the villains. They're the drug traffickers. The character of Madalena Guerra plays Naomi. I think I've said her name right. Madalena Guerra. And Ed Westwick plays Jackson, who's her boyfriend, partner. And he was out of Gossip Girls, I do believe, which I never watched. And I can't think off the top of my head any films that he has actually been in. The film was directed by Marcus Adams, and it was written by Robert Capella Jr. So, what did I think of Deep Fear? Well, first and foremost, it isn't, a massive blockbuster like, say, The Meg or on Deep Blue Sea level. It's certainly not Jaws. It's a lower. Oh, shit. Anything can happen when you're recording, people. Anything can happen. Let's crack on. Let's just imagine that didn't happen. Anyway, fuck it, let's crack on. So, it's not like I was going to say, going to be on the level of Jaws. It doesn't have the budget of The Meg. And, it doesn't, I wouldn't even say, I would say it's on the level of Deep Blue Sea in terms of the CGI is much better, because obviously that came out in 1999. So the CGI is better, but it's still not great. Because the thing with this film, it features some footage taken with real sharks, real great whites. The shark in this is great white, and the rest of it is CGI. So basically the plot starts with the character of Naomi, who is played, like I said, by the character of Naomi, who is played by Madalena Guinea. She has a yacht, and she has a backstory with watching her father get taken away in a storm. And she's kind of really been trying to rebuild her confidence up to want to go back in the water and to kind of, overcome her fears. And then you have our boyfriend who's like some sort of businessman. And cut a long story short, after a period of time, she decides to go out there on a yacht on her own, sailing, and then she comes across this other, boat during the aftermath of a storm, what it seems to be, where you have these two people, this woman who's, she's hysterically crying. She's Maria. Then you have the character Josie, who claim to be, people that are trying to get to the mainland in the Caribbean, who are illegal immigrants, and they have a brother who is trapped down below in another sunken boat. And lo and behold, when they go down to retrieve him and bring him back up, it's all a ruse, because it's actually, they are, drug smugglers, and all hell breaks loose because they are suddenly swarmed by great white sharks. And the first attempt to rescue somebody does not go well. And there is a bit of blood, a bit of CGI-ness going on there. And I'm not going to lie, the film is not terrible, but it's not great either. The acting, I didn't have an issue with the acting. I thought the acting in this was on par for the budget of the film. I think all of the actors did their very best with the roles that they were given. I believe Maria was convincing as this cold-hearted bitch type character, and the one who played Josie, who was also the other drug smuggler, who would go down with the character of Naomi, who was trying to retrieve the drugs. He was very cold-hearted. Naomi, she's scared. She is, worried. She knows that one way or another, whether she helps them retrieve these drugs, because she can dive. She has scuba diving equipment. She knows how to dive. Josie also knows how to dive, and they both go down there, and she knows one way or another she's dead. They don't give a shit about her. They will kill her. They will kill her once they've received the drugs, and she's trying to find different ways to, outsmart them and survive. And it's a clever plot, and it could have been a better plot. With this film, there's a lot of pacing issues. I think it was a bit too slow paced, and I expected this to be a lot more grittier than it could be. If it could have easily had more of a dark tone to it. And you know, you had the side story of her having these nightmares about losing her father in this storm, and she's trying to overcome that. But in the end of the day, it didn't really go anywhere, you know, or you didn't really feel anything else or towards her. She's very attractive. The actress who plays her, did I say Madalena? Whatever. Yeah, Madalena Gania, she is a stunning woman. She is absolutely beautiful. And she did her best to act in this film with the cast. Ed Westwick, for me, he didn't really add to the story. He does go looking for her when he realises that something's amiss. And he goes out there, but he doesn't really add to the story. The main focus is on the character of Naomi, who is trying to outsmart these two very desperate people in this situation. And at the same time, they've got to overcome the threat of being surrounded by great whites. Now, the CGI in this, like I say, it isn't the best, but I've seen a hell of a lot worse. Obviously, back in the day, Deep Blue Sea, when that came out, the CGI at the time was the very best that they had. And, you know, it had the budget it had. This obviously doesn't have the kind of budget to make a Meg type CGI, but they did the very best, and there is some very creative ways they use the sharks. I will say that. There's a bit where they're in the sinking boat and Naomi's in the boat, and it reminds me that of the scene out of The Little Mermaid, the animated film, where the shark's going in and out of that old Victorian ship, and she tries to trap it, and then she tries to rise to the surface to get back to the boat that's above. Now, that scene was quite inventive. There is some very, you know, gory scenes where people are getting eaten by the shark, but the CGI blood is kind of off-putting. I wish they'd use more practical effects when it comes to the actual scenes where they're getting chomped and bloodied. You know, they could have easily strapped a blood pack to an actor and just press the boom button and let it explode all over the waters. But no, they did not choose to do that. They did decide to choose CGI blood at times. But is this a terrible film? It's not a terrible film. It's probably a film that you could watch maybe once, or if there's nothing, if there would have to be something absolutely totally crap on the television for you not to watch, for you to put this on. You would have to put something on that you would have to put this on if there was literally nothing decent on that television and you couldn't find a decent DVD to watch. But the casting, I thought the cast did the best with what they were given to work with. The story, it's a basic story, but they could have went a lot darker. They could have made the pacing better, and I think some of the scenes with the characters they could have fleshed out better, especially the villain type characters. They could have made them a little bit more ruthless, a little bit more sadistic, a little bit more dark. And when it comes to the scenes when, you know, all said and done, and they're getting the comeuppance and the sharks are involved, it would have probably had a lot more meaning to it. But this, for me, is your average shark movie. It's not one of the better shark movies. So because of that, I would probably have to rate this quite low and give it a 5 out of 10. Which, you know, I could have been really, you know, I could have given it a lower score. I could have went, this is absolutely a pile of shit, and give it an even lower score and give it like a 3. But no, I think, you've got to respect the filmmakers, because as some people might know, it takes a lot to get a film off the ground. It takes, the world and back to try to get any film greenlit. And you've got to respect the filmmakers, and the actors did the best, like I say, with the roles that they were given. Like I say, it just needed to be a little bit more nittier, grittier, darker, and, fleshed out the characters a bit better. If they had done that, maybe you might have cared more about the situation that they were in. And like I say, not the best CGI, but with the sharks, but for the budget that they had, they did the very best. So 5 out of 10 for Deep Fear. It's available on Netflix. If you subscribe to Netflix, just give it a go. There's no harm done. There's other films out there that obviously Netflix are known for just putting a bit of everything on there. And this is, another film that's been added to their, selection. And it's, like I say, it's probably a one and done, a one watch wonder, I would call it. But yes, for me, Deep Fear gets a 5 out of 10. If you haven't seen it, get yourself to watch it. If you have seen it, let me know what you think of Deep Fear. It's not the greatest of shark movies, but there's a lot more better ones out there. But anyway, let's keep the shark movies love alive, and I will see us all at the next one.